Ahoy hoy, I'm Planewalk, and here we are with Pseudoscientist number 1. Now, here's the thing that you may not have realised. There has only ever been one pseudoscientist in this entire series. Turns out that this series isn't even a series, it's just one big video. That's why you have one video referencing another video. I mean, the video itself referencing the video itself. Ignore what I just said.
Oops.
Now, I'm sure you're all wondering who the pseudoscientist of the series is. And let me just check. It is Greg at Who's Greg? Well, take it away, Greg, I guess.
Let's have some real fun. We've got about 18 volts, give or take a little bit, in DC.
Well, his voice does sound familiar, but I don't know. Hold on 1 second. What do you mean he's not Greg? Then why does his YouTube channel say that he's Greg? Okay, I guess we're covering that video again. Okay, there's a bit of a mix-up because for some reason his channel name is Greg at TelephonNet. Turns out that he's not actually called Greg, and this is actually a long-awaited part 1.
Well, what else you done? I said, well, I actually looked a bit closer at the planet. You know, this great big ball that you sit on.
Well, at least he's not a flat earther. He might want to tell his disciple right the hand about the shape of the Earth, though.
And you've got a north there, and you've got a south there, and you have a magnetosphere, like that. Well, that's an actual lie.
I'm sorry, what? Isn't that how compasses point north? I guess I should have realised that this is a Nigel Cheesy Hands video, so nothing is off of the table.
The magnetosphere goes like that on the equator. Just like I showed you in the magnet.
Okay, I was worried for a second there that it was going to be crazier. You see, I haven't actually watched this entire thing, but it seems like the more claims that he makes here, the more he rests it on his previous false claims being true. He really is just Ken Wheeler again. I guess this actually proves Nigel right, because if you add one British dude and Ken Wheeler, you get one Nigel Cheesy Hands.
Except now, since there's no more frequency because the frequency is so high, we have something else. We have spherical harmonics.
Stop it, Ken. I've heard enough of your spherical harmonics. Go back to saying counter space.
So this bit where it says it's coming out there and it's coming out there, that's half right. But it's also coming out there and it's coming out there. But they're both going the same direction, right? So if we try and change this slightly to make a better representation, so the energy is coming out there, 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 there.
Okay, why is it going in a particular direction though? Because there is no real reason for it to. I know Nigel thinks differently, but a magnetic field only has 2 poles, north and south. You can only orient a magnetic field in accordance with those 2 poles. There are no other poles to orient it against.
Okay, it's going around and it's been doing it for around about 4.7 billion years.
Okay, so in addition to not being a flat earther, he's also not a young earth creationist. That is good to hear. He's his own brand of crazy.
And if you push something, it doesn't matter how small it is, but you do it constantly over a very, 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 very long time, you create a thing called rotation.
Okay, so pushing stuff creates gravity now? That makes absolutely no sense. If that were true, I would have collapsed into a black hole because flat earthers and other pseudoscientists have been pushing me to my limit.
Never worked out why the planet Earth goes round in a circle.
Okay, so one of the main hypotheses as to why Earth is spinning is because it crashed into a planet many years ago. This caused the Earth to spin and also formed the moon.
And I mean, you can't do that because you've just trashed out, you just keep going back and back and back and destroying all of academia. I said, I'm good at that.
Well, you haven't actually destroyed academia, you've just misunderstood a lot of things.
I said, now, if you take them in a ring, like that, where is that toroidal field? Because if these are all north facing inwards, like that. Just do a couple, just so you've got some idea. And you know yourself, if you put a north to a north, it doesn't want to play. It kind of squirts the energy that way and squirts the energy that way.
It doesn't squirt the energy out, Nigel. It repels the other magnet. Remember, we're talking about forces here, and when you've got more than one force, you add the forces together, and ultimately you get a net force. Force and energy are not the same things. Whilst yes, energy can produce a force, this doesn't mean that energy is a force.
But if you've got an infinite number of points squirting an infinite number of energy, like so, you end up with a circle.
Do you not think that by your own logic it would come out the bits where there's no magnets, because the world is not 2D after all?
But what is in the middle? There's no magnetic field there.
Do you not think that there might be a very strong north or south there?
Because every single magnet is pushing against itself. It's pushing so hard against itself that the distance achieved here is now less than the strength of the magnet on the outside. So all of that field goes and jumps out here.
Well, no, remember that reality is not 2D, it is 3-dimensional. Now, you've got to remember that magnetic field lines loop from the north to the south regardless of what Nigel Cheesyhands says. So in the example he's given here, the magnetic field lines would still point towards the middle, but then they'd go out and around to the south. This is the level of 2D thinking that I would expect to see from a flat earther.
So you end up with a magnetic field there, which it should have, plus its toroidal event, plus its own existence on the outside. But this is now a very solid line. And in fact, if you took that line and put it in a straight one like that, there's only one. There's no longer four.
Okay, so there's a few things. Firstly, I'm not sure if I misheard him, but that line didn't look very straight. Secondly, I think what he's talking about is how in the Nigel verse, magnets have 4 magnetic poles instead of 2, and he somehow managed to turn 4 magnetic poles into 1 by ignoring the third dimension. And lastly, why is he so surprised that there's only 1? Isn't he the person that was telling us that 1 + 1 = 1 because magnet?
But when you look at it, there's actually 4 of them, but they're now going in a straight line. They're no longer going like that.
It still doesn't look straight to me. It looks like a curved line because that is a curve. But in other news, apparently it is 4 because apparently 1 + 1 = 1 no longer applies when you don't need it to.
So you've straightened out the magnetic field. And they went, where are you going with that then?
I'm wondering the exact same thing because we have shot past Crazyville long ago and I want to know where this thing is headed.
I said, well, you're either absolutely stupid, because if you can't see, you shouldn't even be in it. You should go take a gun, take you outside and shoot yourself, because pointless flogging a dead horse.
Given the fact that you've made so many leaps in logic, Nigel, I am not surprised that no one knows where you are going with this. It would be like if a flat earther were debating a scientist, and the scientist asks the flat earther, why do ships disappear bottom first over the horizon? And the flat earther goes, well, you're smart enough, you should be able to figure it out, otherwise you shouldn't be debating me. Because the flat earther is operating outside of reality, you can be really smart and still not know what the flat earther is arguing for.
And I said, well, if you take one magnet and it was that big, and you multiplied it by that number of times, yeah, you've now got, for example, 12 units. That's 12 units at there, okay? At that point. This point is bigger, considerably.
Man discovers size, and it somehow debunks physics, I guess.
Than that. Therefore, if this is an event in time, that is time plus x. That is time plus 0. And that one is time minus x.
Hey Nigel, you know that leaps in logic thing that I was talking about earlier? Well, you're doing it again. I have no idea where in the bloody hell time came from. You just threw it in there like it was obvious that it was meant to be there. And yet you wonder why nobody knows where you're taking this. Well, that is why nobody knows where you're taking this. It's all just throwing random thoughts together and going, ah yes, this definitely means something.
And they said, you've actually isolated time within a magnet. I said, yeah, time is longer within a magnet than what it is within light.
Time is a dimension, not an object. You can't isolate a dimension. That's not how any of this works.
And then when you're not allowed to do things like, if this gets out to the public, we're screwed. We're all screwed.
I think the reason why they said that is because the public would be wondering why they spend a whole lot of time listening to a crazy guy. I know that is what I'd be thinking. I'd be wondering, why are they just listening to this guy?
I says, well, I've made the video and I've made it public. I made 2 copies. Where's the other copies? It's nothing to do with you. I said, because the work that I do outside of working hours has got absolutely diddly squat to do with the Navy. So they changed the laws in the Navy. And they said that you work for us 24 hours, and they demanded all my work. They come and raided my house. They stole all my magnets, all my paperwork. They took the fucking lot.
No, they stole my magnets. Why did they take my magnets? They're all gone. I can't buy any more because those were the only magnets I had. My magnets! Anyway, I don't think what you're doing was that groundbreaking that they came and stole your magnets, Nigel.
I went even further. I said, if you've now got that and you apply a thing called the lens effect, and it applies to 2 materials, copper and aluminium. If you take a magnet and spin it with inside copper and aluminium, it kind of levitates a bit.
The key word there being a bit. This is because moving magnets can induce an electric current. Now, electric currents also generate weak magnetic fields. This is what happens when you pass electricity through a coil. Passing electricity through it generates a magnetic field, and if you've got a ferromagnetic material in the middle of it, then that will become magnetized. And that is essentially how an electromagnet works. Now, for the lens effect, you essentially need a magnet that is moving, and then the material such as copper or aluminium will be slightly magnetized. That can do some pretty cool stuff. If you drop a magnetic ball down an aluminium tube, then that ball will slow down moving because of the magnetic field. Now let's see where Nigel takes this very real phenomenon that does exist.
So I said, if you made this as a pipe, like a water pipe, and you inserted in the middle a propeller made of aluminium and copper bimetal. As the water went across it, it would spin. And it would spin with inside a magnetic field, which is the inverse of the lens effect. And you would ionise the water.
Firstly, why would you need to generate a magnetic field with a turbine? The water is already passing through a magnetic field. Secondly, let's say that you're trying to generate electricity for what you want to do using this. Well, electricity doesn't ionize water. Now, there is a small point to be made about magnetism, but we'll get back to that after point 3. And that is, that's not going to work in Nigel land. And this is because there's no magnetic field in the center of that magnet that you're proposing. Remember? You said that it goes to the outside. So therefore, you're trying to spin copper or aluminium in the absence of a magnetic field, which isn't going to do anything. But the last thing is, does magnetism ionize water? Well, I've found a few sources that say that they do, but those sources are very dodgy. In fact, they are so dodgy that it makes me wonder if Nigel is about to start going to structured water stuff, because that's what the articles were talking about. Also, it should be noted that the articles talked about just using a permanent magnet, not a turbine or anything like that.
And when you ionise water and you drink it, it kills cancer.
There we go, that's a structured water-esque claim. Remember, I haven't watched ahead in this at all, so I do not know what's going to appear. But apparently, Nigel knows how to cure cancer, which you can't do by drinking water, by the way. That's just not how it works. Anything that you try to ingest to deal with cancer is not going to just target the cancer. It's going to target your own cells, because cancer and your cells are very similar. Your cells are where cancer comes from. The only way that it wouldn't target your own cells is by somehow getting the immune system to target the cancer instead. But the immune system doesn't do too well with dealing with cancer because it's very similar to your own cells.
Shit, says the medical. Don't let the world know that you can fix cancer. It means the pharmaceutical industry's screwed.
If there were a cure for cancer, pharmaceutical industries would find a way to make a lot of money out of it. Remember that it is in the pharmaceutical company's best interest to keep you alive because that's how they make money off of you. They don't make money off of dead people. At least, I don't think they do.
Well, what else you do? So, well, when you take it on its side like that, and you take a piece of wire like that, and you put it a loop like that, nothing happens.
You know, I'm not surprised that nothing happens. What I am surprised about is that he didn't try to claim that it's some kind of arc reactor.
I said, but if you send it around twice like that, and you put that to Earth, and you put a magnet on there, magnet becomes an antenna. You've got the Earth here as a magnetic field. It goes in there, goes along that wire, across that magnet, changes and comes out here. It goes around that wire twice and goes to Earth. And I went, and? I said, well, if you take that and you put a circuit in there, you've got as much energy as you want.
That is not how it works. I mean, you came close to electricity generation earlier with the lens effect. Go back to that. In order to generate electricity, you need a moving magnetic field. You can't just hook some wires up to some magnets and expect electricity to just magically fire out of those.
What do you want oil for? Jesus Christ, if Saudi Arabia finds out what you've got there, you'll be on the hit list. All right, chaps. I'm here, this is what I look like. If you want to shoot me, come and do it and show you how scared the world are of you.
Hey NASA, why haven't we gotten rid of Nigel yet? Yeah, I know he's talking bollocks, but can't we just get rid of him anyway? Fine, I guess he's entertainment for some people.
So you can have free energy from a magnet. Put a piece of aluminium, spin the aluminium, you can have a cure for cancer tomorrow.
Nigel, I'm sure that you're not the only person who claims that ionized water can cure cancer. There are people that believe in structured water out there. None of these people ever seem to revolutionize the world because they are charlatans.
In the meantime, while you're trying to work that out, you're scratching your head and saying, how the hell am I going to do now? Well, as I turned around and said, when you look at that magnetic field, it does something weird, right? It does that. But if you try and combine that together, you get what's known as a double helix. And the double helix is the same as DNA.
Well, DNA is in the shape of a double helix. That doesn't mean that a double helix is DNA. Please don't tell me that he's about to talk about magnetic DNA or something.
Oops.
Okay, I did not edit that in, so we're in for something wild here.
And when you put it through that, you straighten out, technically, the electromagnetic DNA of the whole of the goddamn universe, because the magnet has been around us an awful lot longer than humans.
So, I kind of figured that he might go into magnetic DNA or something, but DNA of the universe? What? I need 5 minutes.
Just because it doesn't eat, it doesn't need to eat, because it has its own energy.
What do you mean, dear? What? I need another break. Stop this. Okay, I've taken a small break. I don't know where he's going with this. DNA doesn't need to eat because it's not alive.
It doesn't need to breed because it lives forever, but it does like attraction. It doesn't like the opposite.
What is he talking about? I'm trying to make sense of this, but...
I'll just be a little bit pig ignorant and saying north and south is like a man and a woman. They like it. If you put it the other way, north, north, south, south, don't like it. Two men, two women, don't like it. Okay, you work it out.
Wait, so magnets stuck together are having sex? I'm not sure that's how magnets are made. Also, some guys like guys, some women like women, MBs are hot, some people like all or none.
Well, then you can't do this.
Wait, so you seriously expect me to believe that they were still in the room and still alive after being exposed to that level of nuclear derp?
You're trashing the very existence of all of academia than what we've put together.
No, Nigel, that is not what you're trashing. You're just trashing the very existence of my brain cells.
And I says, and when we do all the tests and they showed them all the voltmeters, I used that one with my name on it.
Hey Nigel, here's an idea. Why didn't you write your name on all your magnets? That way, when they come to take your magnets away, they'll see that your name is on it and they'll go, oh, can't take that. It's a foolproof idea. You should have done that.
I said I can do lots. But if you notice, everything that I've done here is non-compressive. You can't squash it together to make it to go bang.
I'm sure that if your technology actually existed, Nigel, there would be a way to turn it into a weapon.
Nothing of my technology will ever go bang.
Just give it to Electro Boom and you'll be thoroughly disappointed.
None of my technology can harm another human being.
Well, if that is true, why is it harming my brain cells and probably the brain cells of a lot of other people out there? But here's the thing, all technology can be purposed into some kind of weapon. A guitar may not seem like it would be dangerous at all, but it's a lot more dangerous when someone's using it as a club.
Then we come on to the nasty one. This is one where they want to put a nail in each of my hand and pin me to the wall. In the beginning.
Let me guess. In the beginning, there was magnet.
God said, let there be light. Right at the start of that great big thick book, that 3.7 billion of you believe. Can't show you God, but you believe that. I've showed it you here, so why don't you believe it?
If it's any consolation to you, Nigel, I don't believe in God, and I don't believe what you're saying about magnets. What I believe about the universe is all based on evidence. If you can give me evidence for something, then I will consider that evidence, and I may believe it.
God said, let there be light. Light, according to some, is determined as a slight narrow band within inside the electromagnetic spectrum.
Well, that is what we call visible light. There's stuff like UV light that we can't actually see. Everything on the electromagnetic spectrum is basically light. You just can't always see it.
Well, it says that the wave is at 90 degrees to the electric wave, which is 2. Well, if you've got 2 like that, and you apply it on the same function of 0 like that, and you put light, you end up with one value here and one value here. Sorry, it is wobbly, it's the same thing. Where that's the plus and that's the minus.
Okay, I'm not sure what the plus and the minus mean, but it looks like he's trying to insinuate that light has an electric charge when it doesn't. He's also just drawing things on a graph and saying that's how it is without any real justifications. Explaining exactly what you're doing is a key part of trying to explain what it is you're on about.
But when you look at this, that's a plus and minus of itself, and that's a plus and minus of itself, which means you end up with a 0 over 0 over 0. Well, that just screwed the factor 0, because 3 zeros together is light, light is energy.
But you're just saying this, you're not demonstrating what any of this is actually supposed to mean. I could say that you have an equal number of brain cells to Ken Wheeler, so if you divide Nigel Cheesy Hands by Ken Wheeler, then you get 1. And that 1 is the amount of times that Nigel Cheesy Hands can get something right in his life.
If you take an LED and you look at it a little bit closer, inside the LED it looks like that.
Yeah, I suppose it does look a little bit like that actually. That is what an LED looks like, and so, I mean, it's not perfect, but I think he's got it close enough.
If you said, God said, let there be light, like that, and it comes in, and I said that you have this effect, you end up with a plus and a minus with inside the light, that light energy comes in there, all one goes one way, and that comes the other. And when you put a meter inside there, it will give you a voltage.
And that is where he is actually right for once. Turns out that LEDs and solar panels actually are very similar things, they just work in opposite directions. The big difference between them is that solar panels are optimized for turning light into electricity, whilst LEDs are optimized for turning electricity into light. And people often try to tell me that, oh, Nigel is clearly doing satire. Look, if Nigel was clearly doing satire, he would have gotten that wrong. Yeah, I may not agree with how he reached the conclusion, but at least he reached the right conclusion for once.
If you've now got a value here other than 0, then you have extracted the energy from the light.
Yes, that is what a solar panel does.
Because this is what is known as an open circuit, there is no energy coming in whatsoever, this breaches entropy.
And he's back to getting things wrong again. If there were no energy coming in, it would be a closed system, not an open circuit as he puts it. And light does contain energy. You've got light coming into the circuit, so that circuit is not a closed system. Because it's an open system, that means that we're not violating any laws of thermodynamics here.
It doesn't breach. Matter can neither be created nor destroyed. However, if that's the case, Bertie Einstein said that this thing called a photon has no mass. Mass of 0, c squared, hold on, you shouldn't be able to see light if there's no mass, because it breaches its own equation, so Einstein screwed himself.
Well, you see, E equals mc squared is not the full equation. That's just for things at rest. Light has momentum. So because light has no mass, we can just use an equation of energy equals momentum times c. If you plug that in, you work out that light actually does have energy.
Just take an LED and an AVO and point it at the sun. If you get any number on there other than 0, I'm right, they're wrong.
Except Einstein literally won a Nobel Prize for his work on the photoelectric effect. You know, the thing that solar panels operate on, and is what is going on with your LED there.
If you go and play the solar game, you've got this thing which is like 60 inches by 72 inches. And it gives you 36 volts at 300 watts. Mine, which is that big, gives you 150 volts at 900 watts. Who's screwing who?
You know, I highly doubt that your solar panels are more effective than solar panels that are already on the market. Especially given that the only thing that you've gotten right is that LEDs can produce power if they receive light in the right way. You've even tried to say that you've debunked Einstein, who was the person who got a Nobel Prize for his discovery of the photoelectric effect.
The cost to make one of these is pennies compared to one of these. And it works at night, where this one only works during the daytime.
Nigel, you might want to define working at night, because I can assure you that your one will not produce as much power during the night because there's not as much light. Yes, there'll still be light at night, but it won't be enough to run everything. That is why people say that at night solar panels don't work, even though they will produce a little bit of power from light. They produce power, just not enough power.
They've deliberately made solar prohibitively expensive, so it never actually has a value to compete with oil.
Well, no, solar technology at this point is actually cheaper than oil. In fact, solar and wind are the cheapest forms of electricity production out there. Fossil fuels are actually relatively expensive, but they still receive subsidies. This is because fossil fuels can be burned at any time, and a lot of people just don't like nuclear.
Me? I built one. That just powered up. And that's an LED. And that has been successfully powering itself for more than a year.
Okay, if it's been powering itself for more than a year, then why haven't you put a SIM card in it? Is it because maybe you don't use that phone and instead use another phone? Well, it's very easy to keep something powered when you don't use it, isn't it? You see, I noticed how it said insert SIM on it, and it's very intriguing to me that it would say that if you use it regularly. And also, as I mentioned earlier, LEDs are not as good at generating electricity as solar panels. There is a reason why solar panels don't just use LEDs, because they wouldn't be as efficient if they did.
What else you can do, when you take that panel, and you split light, you take your light like that and you split it like that. I've had to give this bit a name because nobody knew what it was, and I called it a Titan. So we have a Titan Plus and a Titan Minus. If you now take the Titans and bring them together, there, it makes light. But it makes light at room temperature, and it makes energy at room temperature. And you can touch that and it don't burn, it's cold. And when you take that matter and you fuse it together, you have cold fusion.
No, that is not cold fusion, Jesus Christ. Solar has been around for ages and you're basically creating a solar panel here. Solar panels are not cold fusion. Neither are magnets, in case you needed to be reminded.
Now the Royal Navy have done their absolute best to destroy me. They tried to send me mad. They sent me to the most inhospitable places. They faked war. They went as far as removing my child from me.
So I don't think that the Royal Navy sent you mad, I think that you did that yourself. As for the thing about his child, it sucks to hear about what happened, but I don't think that was the Royal Navy. In case you don't know, what allegedly happened is his wife left him and took their child to another country. Apparently she took the child to England and Nigel is no longer allowed in England. It feels like there's more to the story than what has been shared. Either way, if it is true, it does suck for Nigel. I can at least have some empathy for him there.
And I'm a goddamn Englishman. I am the perfect English gentleman. And the Royal Navy, in their pirating, scumbag attitude, committed treason, not only against UK, but against every goddamn man and woman on this planet, by hiding that video for the last 37 years. They have made you pay. They have made you suffer for 37 years.
You know, I'm getting some kind of vibe from that. Sort of, up yours, woke moralists, we'll see who cancels who kind of vibe.
If you want your children to grow up in a clean, healthy environment, then this tech is here for you.
You know, that sounds like the kind of thing that I've heard many times before from scam artists. They'll sell a product that does nothing, yet claims that it can solve a whole lot of problems.
So when I take this video off, I'm going to copy it to 20 microsims. I'll make sure China's got a copy. I'll make sure Russia's got a copy. And India and South Africa. All the countries that the UK and the US have abused. They will show the video.
I still haven't seen the video except on YouTube. That's the only place that I've seen it. And this video came out a while ago, so what's the holdup? It's almost as if people that watch this video know that you're talking nonsense. Otherwise, surely it would be all over the news. Actually, he said that he had copied 20 SIM cards. I don't think SIM cards can hold a video. Maybe he means SD cards, but that phone that he had there looked pretty old. But anyway, that is where we're going to leave Nigel, at least for the time being, because we've made it to the end. Finally, part 1 of the one-part series is complete, and it also happens to be part 1 of another one-part series. It has been a wild trip through this video, but before we go, I do want to say something. Over the past year, there have been a lot of people that have found my content due to the Nigel Cheese stuff. And also, there has been a lot of interest in this one Pseudoscientist series. I really do appreciate all the support. It has been an amazing year. I will be taking a small break until next year, but I will return with some interesting content. This series has been a lot of work for me. All I can say is that I hope that next year is just as good, if not better, but there will be some interesting stuff happening next year, so stick around for that. But anyway, the video is not quite over. There's something that I haven't quite finished yet, but I do want to put it in, so between you and me, thank you for watching. Enjoy.
My name's Nigel. Oops. Oops. What's 1 and 1? What's 1 and 1? What's 1 and 1? Oops. Oh, it's gonna be 2. Oh, it's gonna be 2. Oh, it's gonna be 2. Oops. 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 Einstein, gone. Entropy, gone. The first and second laws, oops, gone. I then went on to screw another man, screw another man, screw another man. Gravity stuff.